What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me on the panel is the usual suspects, Callum Wiggins.
It's the summer, baby.
Biggest party of the summer. Haha,
That's
take
pretty
that, Phil. I don't know why I always use Phil as like my go-to name. Phil and the number 4. There's something with that f sound, I guess. I don't know. Also, you heard him a second ago, Robert D. Felice, birthday boy.
Wham bam SummerSlam, and it's my birthday. Yeah.
25.
25. God. I'm old.
I wish I could say, yeah, but I'm 31, so. You know. How old is SummerSlam? Do we know?
This will be the 30th year, right? 31?
Yeah, 98, I believe. Not 88, sorry. 88, I believe.
So this is the 30th year, but it'll be the 31st SummerSlam.
So after all of those years, we've got some ups and some downs with SummerSlam. It's sometimes the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Sometimes it's not so much. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's awful. I don't remember last year's necessarily, but I do remember that there was a year, maybe it was last year or the year before or so, that I really, really hated SummerSlam. So that makes me nervous because I want SummerSlam to always be kind of like, if WrestleMania is supposed to be a 10 out of 10, I want SummerSlam, of course, to be a 10 out of 10 too, but I realistically want it to be maybe like an 8 or 9 out of 10. And this card has a lot of potential behind it, but it also has a lot of potential to be disappointing. Before we get into the matches itself, what are your overall kind of thoughts just looking at this presentation? Do you guys feel like this is good enough? Do you feel like it's anxiety inducing? What are you thinking?
Actually, that's the exact word I used for this week's triple threat. I said there's a lot of anxiety among the fans and the in-ring characters alike, because there is just so much going on here, and it could be the most newsworthy show of WWE's year, but it could also just be, it was what it was. It was SummerSlam. Next, you know?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm looking forward to the show. The show looks good on paper. I'm not looking forward to 6 hours of it, but that's the standard that you have to work with in WWE nowadays. I will say that there definitely is potential to go bad, but I think that the actual show itself will be good, even if the build has been patchy, to say the least.
I'm kind of looking at the card and thinking I'm going to really like a couple things. A couple things are going to be just okay, and then a couple other things are going to be real bothersome. And I hope that the bothersome things aren't so bad that they ruin the whole rest of the card for me. And I'm really worried about the placement of the matches on this card, too. I feel like one match in particular should be on the pre-show and it isn't, and one match shouldn't be on the pre-show and it is. But we'll start with the pre-show itself. Actually, we have a segment that they haven't specified if it's going to be on the pre-show or on the main card. I think it's on the main card, but we might as well talk about it now.
If you talk about Elias.
Yeah, I feel like that seems like it should be on the pre-show, but it'll probably be on the main card. You guys think so?
I think it'll be on the main card, absolutely.
Just like a buffer segment?
Yep.
Yeah, he's a big deal, so they wouldn't just like put him in front of a few random people in the pre-show.
Did you think you'd be saying that last year? Elias is a big deal?
Well, he's one of those people that's like, he's not a big deal in the sense of championships and wins and losses and all that kind of stuff, but his character is a weekly thing now. It's kind of like when Vicky Guerrero was a big deal, you know?
Yeah, that's good comparison.
But I hate this whole idea that this is the feud that's going on, him and Lashley. So awful. And I don't want them to be like, I know what we'll do for SummerSlam. Lashley interrupts Elias. They'll love it.
Again.
For the 5th time. It's dumb.
And you have to know your audience. Will New York love it? New York is probably going to be like, yeah, walk with Elias. Hell yeah, you know?
Yeah, they're probably going to cheer Elias and then be kind of dismissal of Bobby Lashley, maybe. Don't blame him.
I certainly don't. But what is it with Lashley, man? Last month, he was beating Roman Reigns in a pay-per-view in what could have very well been the main event of that show, and now he doesn't even have a scheduled match.
Maybe they realize that he has no character.
Or you just go by the logic that wins and losses don't matter in WWE. It's just a situation where I think, like the entire way down, they were always going to go Roman, so they decided to give Lashley a win on a big stage to give him a bit more credibility. But they clearly didn't have any plans for him. If they did have plans, then they changed in the process.
Maybe they were like, that'll get people to empathize with Roman because he lost a little bit. It shows a lot of sympathy for him. And then he wins right back afterward. We'll get on plenty of Roman Reigns talk later on.
And I'm fine with the idea that wins and losses don't matter. I'm not fine with it, but I've become resigned to it after all these years. But card placement from month to month should matter. You know what I mean?
That's another byproduct of the co-branded event kind of thing.
Yeah. And they've done it before. I mean, like Chris Jericho lost the Undisputed Championship at WrestleMania 18, and then he was off the Backlash card the very next.
But he played a role in that main event and had a huge match the month later.
Yeah, so Lashley's still going to be involved in this show, just in a pretty meaningless segment that most people, like myself, are probably going to use as their bathroom break.
Yeah. And I hope that Elias comes out on top, which it won't happen. Lashley will beat him up, and that'll be the end of it.
We'll get to see a big suplexer.
Yeah, he'll hold him up there, and he'll be like, yeah, isn't this great? Look at me, I'm holding him.
People will be like, oh, yeah, that kind of thing. Well, on the pre-show itself, we do know we have 3 different matches, and I'm fond of one of them, very fond of another one of them, and very dismissal of another one. The one that I'm on the low end of is the B team defending the Raw Tag Team Championship against the Revival. This is my thought about the whole thing. For how many weeks now? How many months at this point, really, for the most part? The Raw Tag Team titles have been held by or defended by people who are jokes. And the B team is kind of funny, but they've also kind of lost their value to me a little bit. Their theme song's great. I fucking love that. But they beat the Revival and the Deleters of Worlds on Monday Night Raw. Why are the Revival getting a title shot here? And why is it on the pre-show? And why aren't the Revival better? That's basically what it is.
Well,
The Revival...
piece by piece. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Cal.
I was just going to say, the Revival should have won the match. They weren't pinned in it, even though they did all the damage to Bray Wyatt to give the B team the win. So I think the title match is has been set up very well. I thought the match on Raw was great. I thought it was the best match on Raw for that entire show. And yeah, the booking of the Revival since they came up to the main roster hasn't been great, and injuries have played a big factor in that. But I have good expectations for this match because nobody knows how to put a good tag team match together better than the Revival do.
That's if they get the time to do it, though. Because in NXT, they were able to do 20-minute matches against DIY or against the Authors of Pain and all that, American Alpha. This time around, I got a feeling it's going to be just, isn't it funny that the B team is doing some weird things and the Revival are just kind of like taking some shots, and 8 minutes later it's over. Revival lose. Even if they win, though, that's the thing. If they win, they beat a joke tag team on the pre-show. You really want that to be where you win the titles, you know?
Granted, but we have to work with what we have. You know what I mean? If you start picking apart how certain people have been booked, then you're going to have a real miserable time with this show.
Well, that's probably what's going to happen. Because it's SummerSlam. It's supposed to be the second biggest show of the year. They should have this shit figured out ahead of time.
Well, it just goes by the sense of, like Rob says, you can't change things that have happened beforehand. So you can't just go back in time and say, oh, the B team are a joke. They should never have won the titles anyway, and we should have made the Raw Tag Team Championship a more meaningful match between two serious teams.
I
But
kind of
now
look at it less in that regard because you can't go back in time, but look at what's been happening lately. The B team were the tag team champions. The Deleters of Worlds were a joke. Before that, we had a 10-year-old hold the titles.
Well, let's just call it what it is. Get it out of the way. Vince does not think anything of tag teams. Period.
Yeah.
We've known that for a long time. That is why NXT has actual credible tag team champions and tag team matches, and WWE has to turn it into a joke. They have to. Unless you have a situation like you had last year where you have two singles guys coming together for a major tag match.
It's just a shame because now I kind of feel like if the B team retain, they make the Revival look bad. If the Revival win, the win doesn't really matter all that much, and then the Revival are just going to start looking like a joke. And it's
Okay.
almost like if we need to go with where we're going, here is like the next launching point, and this is going to put us into like WrestleMania season and stuff. I kind of feel like you need to burn it to the ground and start all over again.
Well, you know they're not going to, and in the situation you just presented, I'd much rather just have the Revival win and let's just start doing damage control for the tag team division.
I hope so. So I'm hoping the Revival wins.
Is that your prediction?
No. Not in the slightest bit. The B team are winning.
The Revival wins. Enough is enough.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
time
going
for a
Revival.
change.
And right it is.
Yeah, Owen Hart would be great in this tag team division. Right?
God, man, I miss Owen
Oh my
Hart.
God, yes.
I rewatched Survivor Series 96 and the 97 Royal Rumble over the past week, and every time Owen Hart popped up, I was just like, God damn it. He's just kind of like, I want Owen again.
But I'm going Revival as well. I think the way the match was laid out on Monday was setting it up for them to win this match.
I will say it's a damn shame that in a case like this, Axel and Dallas aren't presented in a serious matter because they're second generation, even though they don't necessarily touch on that, especially with Dallas.
Well, Axel's technically third generation.
Oh, did I? That's true. And whoops, I think so is Dallas, isn't he?
Yeah, he might be, yeah.
Blackjack and sorry, they're third generation talents, both of them, and
so they should be the C team.
They should at least be given some credibility. I understand the value in humor, and they're doing it wonderfully, by the way. They're knocking it out of the park with this role. It's just, I want serious competitors now. Like Tony has said, the entire year has been a joke, so now it's time for some damage control.
That's where I kind of get my argument behind is I don't mind a joke thing every once in a while, but if the B team had been the one joke team for this year, it'd be a different story. The Leaders of World, they sucked. That just was a complete bust. And giving the title to Nicholas was like, all right, I laughed because it was ridiculous, but that doesn't mean I liked it, you know?
Nicholas the Ridiculous.
The whole Braun Strowman needs a partner, then Bobby Lashley keeps tagging up with him afterward and stuff. Like, we would have been so much better off if Bobby Lashley would have just been his partner. And the two of them could have lost the tag titles to the Authors of Pain, and then we would have been in a good situation right now. And, you know, it's just one of those things where it makes me go, yeah, you've done a bunch of damage and you can't go back in time, but if you can acknowledge that that's what you've been doing, maybe you won't take the next 7 months and do the same thing.
I'm going to say something horrible, and I know we've had a lot of passings lately, but the tag team division is the one area where I say what a lot of smart fans say, and it's when Vince dies, this is going to get better.
Yeah, but then there's going to be another different Revival.
But that's okay because
I'm just making a Vince comes back from
Vince
the dead joke.
Yeah. Move on.
It's one of those things that it's happened before. It'll happen again. He blew up in the car.
He
Undertaker's
can't be on
come
TV
back.
if he's dead. Yeah.
So we're kind of all over the place. I'm going B team. What did you guys say again?
Revival.
Yeah.
All right, I hope you guys are right. And I hope that afterward Revival are taken seriously and something good ends up happening. I don't know. The match that I am giving a big old thumbs up to, as far as the booking makes perfect sense, and I am shocked that they actually went with the most logical thing here, is the mixed tag team match that is Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega against Rusev and Lana. They've been doing this thing, if you haven't been watching SmackDown, every week, whether it's Zelina against Lana or Almas versus Rusev or whatever the case may be. They've had instances where Aiden English has come out, he's tried to help, he's screwed things up, made it worse, and then they've lost because of it. Rusev and Lana are pissed at him. They tried to give him the benefit of the doubt by bringing him back into Rusev Day, told him not to come out. He came out anyway. They lost another match. So it's basically leading to the downfall of Aiden English as part of the Rusev Day trio. Zelina Vega gets wins. That's good. Almas gets his push in the process. That's good. I like this through and through. I like every part about it. And mixed tag team match makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
completely
I
in
agree.
agreement with it. It's
Yeah.
very well consistently booked. I can't turn my nose up to a thing that's made complete logical sense, has taken a good amount of time on TV, and has all been building up to a match on pay-per-view. Just all makes logical sense. All the segments have been, while the matches between Lana and Zelina are like, they're not exactly to the standards of what they probably put into the women's evolution. They've not been
They're deepest
offensively
matches.
terrible. Yeah, they've not been offensively terrible. And the promos that they've been doing, both on the show and in social media and backstage segments, have all been fantastic. So, yeah, I have a big thumbs up for this entire scenario.
It's great that, you know, Zelina and Lana are getting a chance to do other things, you know?
Instead of just being arm candy.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually go the other way here and probably suggest that that might be a Vince call. And it's a good one, you know?
But what might be a Vince call?
That
They get to wrestle?
having them wrestle and be a little more in the spotlight.
I think that's just more the case of Vince's aversion to managers more than wanting them to actually wrestle.
Or maybe just because it's SmackDown and Vince doesn't pay as much attention to SmackDown, supposedly.
You know, the only thing that sucks about this being on the pre-show,
people won't see it.
Yeah, they're taking a huge hit by not having people involved with the popularity of Rusev Day.
Well, this is one of the matches, the other one on the pre-show as well, that I think, you know what? This would be better on the main card, and we would be better off with Baron Corbin and Finn Balor on the pre-show. Because that match doesn't fucking matter, you know?
You know how we said Elias is a big deal? Right now, Corbin is a big deal because he's going to be heavily factored in to Raw for the coming months because he's kind of has an authority spot. And Balor is that guy that they really want to be a big deal, but they also don't want to actively push him like a big deal. You know what I mean? They know he's popular, so he's going to get on the main card no matter what.
The big deal, Balor O'Neill. Newest member of Titus Worldwide.
That's where it looks like they're headed sometimes.
I think that this is a scenario, the mixed tag team match, where either team can win and it makes sense. If Rusev and Lana win, they've been losing a lot lately, so getting their win back, cool. If Almas and Vega win, well, they're the fresher people on the roster, and they could use as many wins as they could possibly get, and it's almost kind of win-win. It's just a matter of what do they do with Aiden English.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. I won't say I'll be completely crushed, no pun intended, if Rusev and Lana win, but I'd rather Zelina and Almas get a strong win here and move forward into that potential U.S. title picture.
I go pretty much opposite to that, in the sense that I think Almas and Zelina have won basically everything on TV, and I know it's like don't want to be an advocate for 50-50 booking too much, but this is a good opportunity to have Rusev and Lana win the match. I would personally book it in the way that this can be Aiden English's redemption, where he actually gets involved and actually helps Lana and Rusev win the match. And because I think the collective as a trio is so much better than just Rusev and Lana on their own. I think Aiden English actually adds a lot of value, and if English isn't part of this collective, he just becomes a nothing part of SmackDown. And I think the work that he's done deserves more than that. And beyond that point, that propels Rusev into the United States Championship picture.
See, I'm kind of over Aiden English. I've kind of been for a long time. I sort of think that Rusev and Lana on their own, they don't need somebody who does that little like rap kind of slam poetry type crap.
The rap stuff can go, but he can just do the Rusev Day like thing. But I think that's fine for him.
I'd rather see Aiden English maybe go and just kind of, I hate to say this kind of stuff because it makes it seem like I want somebody to be fired, but like, I kind of want him to just sort of transition to not being somebody that we need to invest in. I think by now, I'm okay with writing off Aiden English.
Well, I
Personal
wouldn't necessarily
preference.
say that, but I think the smartest thing to do here is to have Almas and Zelina get a strong win here. At this point, Rusev and Lana are staple characters. This loss won't hurt them.
Yeah, but it's also a case that if you want to have Almas and Zelina win and move forward into the next step up, what is the next step up? Because sure, they could enter the United States title picture, but if Nakamura is still champion, he's a heel, Almas is a heel, it's not going to work. So why not put the babyface over? It's a match on the pre-show, so people aren't going to care too much. So why not put the babyface over, make everyone happier about it, rather than just.
I agree with that actually, and I'm gonna actually ask a question. Do you think Almas is kind of left sitting on his hands until WrestleMania comes around and they want to do a multi-man for a mid-card title?
I think he won't be. A spotlight won't be on him significantly until after Nakamura loses the United States Championship, which obviously could be at SummerSlam if they decide to go that route, but it won't be for a little while.
Well, I'm just saying the current, and I know we have another pre-show match, but the current U.S. title picture looks like it's 3 really high-level guys. So I think Almas might be waiting a while, regardless of what happens here.
I think in the course of maybe a month, WWE is going to realize that SmackDown needs more people, and they're going to switch some things up. Because right now, Sin Cara is injured, and he doesn't mean anything really anyway. Ty Dillinger is supposedly injured. They haven't done anything with Shelton Benjamin, and he's a heel. Almas is a heel, and he has nothing really going on past this Rusev thing. We've got the potential of Daniel Bryan leaving. Randy Orton's a heel. Shinsuke Nakamura is a heel. Jeff Hardy is injured. There's not really too much that you can draw from. The Miz is a heel. They need baby faces, and they need more people. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if maybe we do get some kind of a call up from NXT. I don't really know who necessarily would be, because NXT is kind of like, there's not too many people to play around with there, but maybe somebody from Monday Night Raw gets pushed over. Maybe like a Finn Balor gets brought over. If they do something like Baron Corbin wins and he says, you know what, I made sure that on Monday Night Raw we pushed over Finn Balor and sent him over to SmackDown. I don't want him anymore. They could do something like that. And then you see Finn Balor versus Almas or something. I think that Rusev is definitely hanging in that picture of the U.S. title situation, and a win here could really help him. And even though I just said that we need baby faces, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe some kind of little ancillary feud where maybe something happens like English purposely causes Rusev the loss, and then Rusev can beat the crap out of English over the next couple of weeks to give him a little bit of steam, and then transition to being the next contender to Nakamura. And then, because English is a joke. Like, people don't really get so behind the whole, like, singing and stuff. It's just the Rusev Day, and that's, like, you could do that without English. He comes off kind of ridiculous, and I think that a character that's ridiculous like that should be a heel that you can make fun of instead of a babyface that you can't really think is cool, you know? But it's tough. You need more people. They need, like, a Bobby Roode or something like that. They need more people. And
they need to start being more... I know in a lot of ways the idea is heel and face are passe, but they need to start being a lot more wise with who they turn heel and who they keep babyface, because it does affect their characters and what they can do and say on the mic and stuff like that, you know?
And they need a spreadsheet. They need to just take 2 Excel columns and put, here are the heels, here are the baby faces, and see if it's a scenario where, oh crap, we've got like 9 heels and 3 baby faces. What do we do? Because you get a couple injuries and you're screwed, you know? I'm going to go with, I'm going to just, when in doubt, go with the thing that they keep doing. I'm going to go Almas and Vega.
Almas and Vega.
Rusev Day.
I was hoping that you'd go with that at the very least.
Yeah. I don't want to sing it.
Breaking news, since we're talking about the kickoff. This Sunday, you can experience SummerSlam kickoff live in virtual reality, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Next VR app and in Oculus venues.
Oh, great. We get to hear that 19 times per minute on the pre-show for 2 hours.
Wow. Do either of you have any VR capabilities?
No.
And I wouldn't, even if it was necessarily free.
So it would feel amazing to be able to feel like you're sitting next to Pete Rosenberg, but then I'd be upset that I wouldn't be able to punch him in real life.
The other match that's on the pre-show, speaking of the pre-show, is definitely the one that I was like, God, they need to stop doing this. Cruiserweight Championship. And it needs to be on the main card at some point. They didn't put this on any card since the co-branded thing. And they still just put it on the pre-show. It's like, just one time, put it on the main card. Get people to actually watch the damn thing. Maybe people will tune into 205 Live if that's the case.
Now, Tony, they were on the main card of the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Doesn't count, though. It was like a Friday afternoon at, I don't know, 1 p.m. or something like that. But Cedric Alexander is defending the title against Drew Gulak, and my gut reaction was a simple, okay, Cedric Alexander retains because he's dropping it to Lio Rush, but, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Gulak were to win.
Why?
He strikes me as the type of guy that maybe they did the same kind of thing that I did, where originally when he came in, it was just kind of like, why is he dressed up like a knight, and he has no personality, and he's just kind of blah. And then he started doing this whole PowerPoint presentation and for Better 205 Live, and he showed he had a lot of personality. And now that they switched over and he's more serious with all this, they've been booking him really strong. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of went, wow, Drew Gulak is like a guy we can trust. And if we have him beat Cedric Alexander, it's not like we don't have baby faces that can beat Drew Gulak down the line. Mustafa Ali can beat him. Maybe it's a little too quick to kind of rush to Lio Rush, so to speak. And maybe he gets the title in 2019 at some point. Maybe we get Gulak, drops the title to Mustafa Ali, who drops it to Lio Rush or something. I wouldn't rule it out.
You know, I've been answering this question a lot lately because I've been doing other streams, and I've been saying, yeah, I think Cedric keeps it because Lio Rush. But you just kind of sold me on the idea that it wouldn't be the worst thing for Gulak to win. You know, I like Gulak. I kind of wish he would be able to branch out into the main roster because, unfortunately, the Cruiserweight seems to be such a pigeonholed, dead-end area. And I really do like him. So if he were to win here, I wouldn't be too upset. And this is not a slight on Cedric Alexander in ring, but man, this title reign has been so boring. And there's a lot of great things on 205 Live, and Cedric as champion is not one of them.
Well, they're booking him kind of like a special attraction type thing, and as much as I do like 205 Live and I like the roster, it doesn't have that buzz.
Alexander's been a very bland champion ever since his matches are good. He seems like a very nice guy, but he doesn't exude the sort of personality if you want a champion that's going to actually draw eyes onto your product, because there's a whole new era of 205 Live. He is one of the lowest people you should have picked, but because they were so focused on giving him the title for such a long time, then they decided to run with it. Now he's held it for quite a while. It should be building his credibility up. It's actually making him... I mean, his credibility's up. He's just not making an impact because he's not very charismatic. And as much as I'm a fan of Drew Gulak and Cedric Alexander puts on great matches, they both put on very good matches, this was the absolute worst choice for SummerSlam, to put these two against each other. Because if you want to get people excited about 205 Live and like you did at WrestleMania, put on like a high impact, like all action cruiserweight match, instead you pick Alexander, who's not on a very good streak of charisma at the moment, and the submission specialist. It's going to be a lot of rest holds. It's going to be a lot of traditional WWE style matches. I imagine we're going to see more high flying in the Dolph Ziggler Seth Rollins match than we're going to see in this match. And that's not the way it should be, because in that case, what's the point of cruiserweights? They should differentiate themselves by being faster and more agile and taking more high risks than... I'm not saying that you can't have someone like Drew Gulak to make it a bit more...
So the matches aren't the same.
Yeah, to add a little bit of, like, have a bit of differentiation in it. But for the most part, they should be the more high impactful, more indie-rific matches. Whereas the main roster should be... And that was why the Cruiserweight was so successful in WCW, because you had all of these high-fly matches, and then you had the old guys wrestling in the main event. Nowadays, you can't obviously have that because people don't want to see I'm saying people don't want to see, but people aren't as used to the traditional style, and they'll still want to see suicide dives and frog splashes and what have you. But you can still separate out a little bit more, like give them a little bit more room to maneuver. But this should have definitely been Alexander against Ali again, or it should have been Alexander against Rush, or just something more of that side of things. Because
I'm going to go the TNA route. They should have done some type of 6-pack cluster car crash.
They could have done something like that. That would have been a lot more entertaining. I do like the fact that they try and keep most title matches one-on-one. It's quite a nice thing to have, but I just think this match won't... Even if it had been on the main card, I don't think this match would have attracted any more attention to 205 Live, because it's not the right match to use to do that. It's a good match to have on the 205 Live show. It's like, oh, it's one of like the monthly challenges they just put on the TV. That would be great. But because I think the match would be very good, but it just won't be it's not the right match for this event.
Yeah, I can see that. I hope it's really good. I hope it is something that people kind of pay attention to, but I don't have a lot of faith.
I'm sure the match would be very good for people that like watching these guys and like watching like just wrestling in general. But if it's meant to be say, oh, this is the sort of thing that you can only see on 205 Live, it's like, well, no, I can see it on Raw and SmackDown, and I see 5 hours of it on Raw and SmackDown, so I don't really want to spend another hour of my time.
And it's a long card. Like, this is, I mean, the talk that we're doing right now for predicting the card is long, and the card itself is going to be really long. By the time we get done the pre-show, people are going to forget about this. So even if they do watch it, it's just going to be, you mentioned Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. That's going to steal the show, and then they're not going to remember anything that happened with Gulak and Alexander. And just kind of disappointing to me, because it shows that after that co-branded thing, they just do not value 205 Live at all. And if you show that you don't put any kind of value in anything, the fans aren't going to put stock into it either. That's why nobody gives a shit about main event, and nobody cared about Superstars. Because it was like, you know, do I really want to see Noah Jose versus Kurt Hawkins every single week? No. Doesn't matter. Jose. But I'm going to go with, even though I say that I think that there's a good chance that Drew Gulak wins, I'm going to just stick to Alexander because it's easier.
Yeah, I don't think this will be the end of Cedric's title reign, so I'm going with Alexander winning as well.
Guess we're 3 for 3. I'm going Alexander.
And if we're wrong, it's not like we didn't prod out the idea of Gulak possibly winning. We actually talked about this. We're on the main card now, so we might as well talk about the lowest ranked out of all of them, potentially. Baron Corbin versus Finn Balor. We mentioned it earlier. This is a rubber match, technically, between them. I kind of don't care. I just want Baron Corbin to win. I don't think he will. I think Balor will win, but
I don't really want to spend too much time talking about it because it's just a match that no one really cares too much about. I mean, I know they've been doing the thing with Corbin being the authority figure, and it's a good dynamic for him. I'm much more into Corbin as an authority figure than I ever was as him just being this stupid lone wolf character. But yeah, this match doesn't really bear too much to talk about beyond what already happened at Extreme Rules. So I think Balor just wins this match.
I'm going to say this a couple of times when we talk about the Raw stuff. I hope I'm wrong, but my gut tells me that going forward, Balor and Corbin are going to be major players on the Raw scene, so I don't think this match will be as throwaway in the long run, and I actually think Corbin wins here.
Now, another match that I'm not really all that thrilled about, which is weird because I was really looking forward to it earlier in the year, but that's kind of why I'm not really all that into it right now, is the Bludgeon Brothers defending the SmackDown Tag Team Championship against the New Day. And the reason why I'm not all that into it is because I've seen it. And they really don't have much of a feud going on. It's pretty much just, who do we have? Let's just put the New Day in the spot. And they sort of have already done everything with Sanity. They kind of pushed them aside. Clearly, they don't want to do Bludgeon Brothers versus Sanity here, which would have been, I think, much more interesting. I do like the New Day. I'd be totally cool with the New Day winning the titles again. I don't like the Bludgeon Brothers all that much anymore. I've kind of written them off as a failure in my mind. And I just sort of, I don't know, part of me kind of wants this to be a 5-minute match. I don't really care. What are you guys thinking?
You can go first, Callum.
Oh, thanks. It's I don't know what I kind of like the idea that they've been having the Bludgeon Brothers beat up 3-man teams on SmackDown in the build up to this to kind of show that they don't care how many people they're facing as long as they get a chance to beat them up. That's all they're interested in. But having them just defeat jobber teams when they're already the champions just feels a little it hasn't really done anything for me. Their reign in general, I think, has been a bit. I think if it had been the Authors of Pain on SmackDown instead of these guys, it might be a little bit more interesting because it's just fresher. And we would have been something that we weren't as familiar with. But this match, I can't say I don't think it'll be good because both teams are capable of putting on good matches. So I'll be optimistic in that regard, but I can't say I care too much about it.
What do you think wins?
I'm going with the New Day for this one. I think they've realised I don't want to say they've realised the mistake of having the title on them for too long, but I think they realised that nobody's going to be too invested in this match, so maybe just give a little feel-good thing by making the New Day win would be just the best way of getting some sort of positive out of this match.
Power positivity.
I think this one is absolutely going to the New Day. This will be... Do you know how many reigns they're in already as champions?
4, I think. So this will be the 5th?
I think they want to make them not only the longest reigning, but I think they want to make them the most winningest. I don't even know if that's the way you would say it, but the team that holds the tag titles the most.
See, this is one of those things that makes me think that maybe they don't have plans. And that makes me nervous because the Bludgeon Brothers have already had their feud with the Usos. They've already had a feud with the New Day. The New Day have already feuded with Sanity. The Usos have already had matches with Sanity. So it's almost kind of like there's nothing to do with the Bludgeon Brothers. There's nothing to do with the Usos. There's nothing to do with the the New Day. There's nothing to do with Sanity already, except for the Bar. And the Bar kind of like don't even exist, sort of. And the Good Brothers, they write them off all the time. They don't pay any attention to them. And I don't know. I'm kind of nervous that they're just going to say, well, these are the 5 teams. Let's just pair them up randomly for an entire year. And we've kind of been getting that. And I don't want them to just be like, all right, well, we'll put the belts on the New Day. And then they can have another match against the Bludgeon Brothers at Hell in a Cell. And then we can have the New Day versus the Usos again. And then we can have the New Day versus Sanity, and then Sanity can fight the Usos, and then that's how we get to the end of the year, kind of a thing or something. But I also really more so don't even want it to be like, all right, well, we'll just keep it on the Bludgeon Brothers, and then they can beat the Good Brothers again, and then they can beat the Usos again, and then they can fight. It's just kind of like I guess more than anything on this card, by the end of the day on Sunday, I want reassurance that they have a plan and it's going to be good for all this stuff. And not that it's like, we really, really care about Ronda Rousey winning the title. And we really, really care about, say, that Dean Ambrose is back. And then you go, yeah, but what about all the other 13 things that you've got going on? And then they go, did you see that Bobby Lashley gave a vertical suplex to Elias? I don't want this card to feel like the moment Vince McMahon type booking, where it's like, it would be interesting if these things happened on this particular night. Who cares what happens afterward? So if the New Day wins, I love the New Day. Totally up for that. Would rather that happen than keep it on the Bludgeon Brothers. But I think the only interesting thing that's left to do on SmackDown is the Bludgeon Brothers versus Sanity. And that means that one of those teams needs to have the tag titles for it to be all that interesting. And for it to get on the card, too. So, I don't know. Part of me wants the Bludgeon Brothers to retain so that Sanity can beat them, and then the New Day can beat Sanity. Part of me just wants the New Day to win, to drop it to the Sanity down the line, and then the Undisputed Era to come in. Or it's tough, but I would not be shocked at all if the tag titles switch hands here. Yet I'm still going with the Bludgeon Brothers retaining, because part of me just refuses to acknowledge that there can be lots and lots of title changes, and I'm probably going to be dead wrong. So don't place your bets on me when it comes to this one. I am kind of flipping a coin. You guys think the New Day's winning, though? Both of you going with that?
I think that that's the best way to go. But as you were talking, I started thinking about Sanity. And maybe they don't have a finish here at all, and Sanity just fucks the whole thing up.
Maybe.
I can't buy. I think Sanity are just fodder at the moment. I think they've given up on them entirely. So
I'm
Not a
very
shame.
sad about Killian Dane's gear.
singlet, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you better watch out. If you start talking about the way that people look, it might cause some problems.
No, but I just go by the logic of the fact that they haven't won the only match any of them have won on SmackDown is Eric Young 1 week beat Kofi Kingston in a singles match, and they've lost every other match since then. It's like, well, they're clearly not invested in them, so even
Much
if
like Lashley, they also won at Extreme Rules.
Oh yeah, but it's just a case of, yeah, it might be interesting to see the Bludgeon Brothers versus Sanity, but if you've never made Sanity look out like any sort of meaningful threat, then why would it be interesting?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if they decide next week to, say, bring up Nikki Cross and then try and reinvigorate Sanity like that by kind of making her not so much the leader of the group, but pretty much like the motivator, like seeing that they've been slacking off and trying to inject the crazy back into them, then that would be great. and then you can reinvigorate Sanity and have them go on to challenge for title matches and stuff like that. But I think to do that, you should put it on New Day, so it's a heel versus babyface thing. So I'm still going to go the New Day, just not so much like looking forward to the future or anything like that, just because I think this will be moment-based booking, and New Day's the most likely to pop the crowd.
And I think they just like saying, history has been made, new tag team champions.
Yeah. Well, we've seen in the past that SummerSlam has been a time where they've changed, 9 titles or something like that, so they could do it. I would not be shocked at all. I would be shocked, though, if Jeff Hardy wins the United States Championship back.
I'm going to ask one last time. Has Randy Orton been added to this match officially yet?
Nope.
Wow.
So, I am going into this with the lowest expectations possible, and it's a very pessimistic point of view, I'll acknowledge it, but I'm looking at this as kind of like, all right, well, Shinsuke Nakamura retains because Randy Orton interferes. Can we just skip to the end? I don't care. Randy Orton's going to come out. He's going to do something. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat, which is, it's not great to say because I do enjoy Nakamura's work, but the fact of the matter is that this match can only reach so high the ceiling because Jeff Hardy is fucked up in all sorts of ways. Like his body is like, well, to steal a quote from his brother, it's broken. And he can't, like, you see the things on SmackDown, which is pretty sad, where he did a standing splash onto Shelton Benjamin because he can't use the Swanton Bomb more than once a night. It's so yeah, the match will only be good at best, and it makes all the sense in the world to have Randy Orton interfere and cost Hardy the match. So that's probably what they're going to do.
Well, Father Time seems to have finally caught up to the Hardy Boys. And it's amazing that they've lasted this long because they put themselves through some crazy shit. And, it's unfortunate for us now because we don't get the full Hardy benefit. But, this was bound to happen. And I cannot say enough how much I'm surprised that Randy Orton hasn't been added to this match. Maybe they didn't do it because they already had a triple threat booked for the SmackDown Women's title. I don't know. But Randy should be in this match. And unfortunately, with Randy being a heel, Nakamura being a heel, I have to think Hardy should be factored in strongly here. But he's too injured. So I'm going Nakamura, and maybe we get a heel versus heel Nakamura-Randy feud.
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to happen just because Orton, since coming back, has shown no indication that he wants to go after the United States Championship. What he wants to do is take out people's heroes and the people that fans cheer for. So I don't think he'll target Nakamura at all. If anything, I'd see him go after someone like Styles or Rusev next.
Yeah, I guess it's got to be Rusev because Styles is unfortunately locked up with Joe. This Randy Orton, by the way, has been doing phenomenal work, and I wish Styles was free at the moment so we could finally get a good AJ Randy feud. But I'm sure
thinking
we'll get there.
Orton Bryan, but we'll talk about that in a minute or so. I just kind of think that this is one of those things where they didn't think ahead of time with that superstar shakeup, and Jeff Hardy should take time off. Matt Hardy should too if he's all beaten up, and there should be a plan in place where these injuries keep happening, and WWE seems to not want to acknowledge that that's a possibility throughout the year. And they do the drafts and the shakeups and stuff, and they make it kind of seem like everybody's guaranteed to be perfectly fine and there's no backup plan. And then you run into a situation like this with Jeff Hardy, and it's like, if Jeff Hardy goes, and he should take some time off, you're really running out of a lot of different options. And move people over and change things around and stuff. But Randy Orton maybe shouldn't have turned heel around this time. Or maybe they should have turned Shinsuke Nakamura heel a lot earlier in the year and they could have figured things out. Or, this feud with Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't seem to involve Randy Orton. It's basically Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy. And then when Jeff Hardy, if he wins the title back from Nakamura and they do Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton at Hell in a Cell, the hell does Nakamura do? Nothing. If he loses the title situation and Nakamura is the champion still, Nakamura moves on to somebody else like Rusev, Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy, well, we've already seen them beat each other up and stuff, and Jeff Hardy should be taking time off. And I don't know. I just don't think it's a good situation. That's one of those matches where it makes me think that the card wasn't planned out well. And another one being, well, actually, let's, before we move on to that, are we all going Shinsuke Nakamura?
Yeah.
I thought so. Not the other, because there's plenty of other things, but another match that I think isn't necessarily planned all that well is Carmella defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair in a triple threat. The reason why I say that is because Becky Lynch versus Carmella could have been good enough. Why throw Charlotte Flair in there?
Because Charlotte has to be involved if she's ready to go.
She doesn't have to be. That's the thing.
Oh,
And I think that
I
they're...
disagree. Do you see the way they utilize her? They obviously treat her as though she needs to be involved.
But we got the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up, and then we have the Super Showdown, and then Evolution, before we start getting into the month where Survivor Series is kind of like a gimme. If they do the champion versus champion thing, they don't really have to build all that much. And then we get, what's the end of the year? TLC, I think? Yeah, TLC. Yeah. So we have basically 4 more matches that we need to plan out for the rest of the year. And then we get into Royal Rumble, and Royal Rumble, is whatever. Then Fastlane and Elimination Chamber is all up in the air, and, whatever the case may be. But Carmella and Becky Lynch, I think they could have done that here. They could have done a rematch at Hell in a Cell. And if they wanted to do Becky versus Charlotte, they could have done that at Evolution, and it could have meant something. If they're already fighting in a triple threat match here, and then we get Carmella versus Becky Lynch or Carmella versus Charlotte Flair, and then they try to go back to it for Evolution, they still have the Super Showdown to do. Kind of makes me feel like they booked a month ahead of time or something. Then again, maybe I'm just overthinking things. I don't know. I feel like the belt has to change hands. And if the belt changes hands, I think it should go to Becky Lynch. And if it does, I don't think that they should go straight into a Charlotte Flair feud. Also, I don't want anybody to turn heel. I know I'm probably going against what everybody wants, because everybody always wants heel turns. I think
that Charlotte and Becky, regardless of who the champion is the SmackDown Women's title match for Evolution. And then I think Charlotte Flair walks out Evolution as champion, because then you can do the horsewoman thing at Survivor Series.
Mania.
That being said, I think you get Becky Lynch wins here, and maybe Charlotte is a little disgruntled that, she didn't beat her because she made Carmella tap, and she starts slowly turning heel on Becky. That's what I'm thinking as I see this match on paper. I could be wrong. I just hope Carmella doesn't win.
What are you thinking, Callum?
It's a I've liked the build to this feud. I think the idea of inserting Charlotte into the match got the reaction that it should have done, which is everyone getting very frustrated because they thought it was Becky Lynch's time, and Charlotte gets added to the match, and everyone goes, "Oh God, it's never going to be. When is it ever going to be Becky Lynch's opportunity to finally win the championship?" And that's exactly how we're supposed to feel leading into this match. Is that Charlotte seems to be the person that always gets the opportunities. Carmella's been champion for a long time and isn't doing a particularly good job, depending on people's point of view. And Becky Lynch is the person that everyone, not to say everyone, but a significant proportion of the fan base want to see as the next champion, but is always getting roadblocks in her way. And I think that leads to a great story where if you have Becky Lynch win the championship here. However, I think there's a significant issue with. I know I usually try not to do the thing of like projecting too much into the future, but with Evolution coming up, there is a very distinct possibility that they're going to introduce SmackDown Women's Championship, well, Women's Tag Team Championships that would be defended across both Raw and SmackDown. And I think they've been teasing the idea that it's going to be Becky Lynch and Charlotte against Sasha Banks and Bayley for the titles. And if that happens, you can't have one of the two be women's champion.
Right.
So I'm going with the idea that I think they're both going to get into each other's way, cause a bit of tension, and a triple threat means that Carmella can sneak in and win the women's and retain the women's championship. And like my own personal hell continues for months onwards. And I don't want this to happen. I want Becky Lynch to win the championship, and at a push, I want Charlotte to win it as well. Like, I'd rather have either of those two as women's champion over Carmella. I do like the fact that they've decided to go on with the idea of like she's a diva in a women's era. I think that they should have done that from the very beginning, and I might have been more agreeable with her title reign. Is the fact they've been so inconsistent with her booking that I've kind of had more issue with, and the fact that her matches aren't very good. But that's a different point entirely. If she was a diva, then it would be that case. But it's more a case of I think they have something else planned for Carmella at Evolution, in the sense that we haven't seen a lot of Naomi recently, and I think they might give her the next opportunity.
But then they still have Hell in a Cell and Super Showdown.
Well, they might have both matches. She might have 3 matches with Naomi. Or they might throw Asuka back into it, or they might decide that Lana and Rusev are getting really over. We'll throw Lana into the Women's Championship picture. Which, again, I'm not exactly thrilled about the idea of a Lana versus Carmella feud for the championship in terms of match quality, but if Lana is popular and the match gets people interested, then you can't really say they're doing wrong by running with it. But even though my heart desperately wants Becky Lynch to win this match, my head says Carmella, and that's winning out, so I think Carmella retains.
Well, just to fantasy book a little bit, I don't want SmackDown or Raw or co-branded women's tag team titles to begin with, but if we do get them, the idea that you had put up there about the 4 horsewomen against each other, you could do a scenario ahead of time where it's like, all right, on Monday Night Raw, we're going to have a couple tag teams against each other to determine who can fight for the Raw, for the co-branded women's titles. And on SmackDown, we'll do the same thing. And you've got, on Monday Night Raw, you've got, say, Alexa and Mickey, the Riot Squad, Sasha and Bayley, Nia Jax and Ember Moon kind of are a tag team here and there. Ronda Rousey and Natalya. And is that it? I think that's it, right?
You could throw like Alicia Fox and Dana in if you wanted to. But...
yeah, if you wanted to do like a throwaway thing. And on SmackDown, you've got Becky and Charlotte, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, the Iconics, and I think that's it too.
You could do like
Naomi and Tamina if she's ready.
Yeah, Lana and Naomi, they've done that before.
Something like that. And you could do something building up to that where you can kind of have like Becky and Charlotte, one of them is the champion and they also want to go in and fight for the tag titles, but they lose to the Iconics, and then we get the Iconics versus Sasha and Bayley, and then whoever is the champion between Becky and Charlotte, it's like, hey, well, now we're fighting each other because you screwed up our shot at being the tag champions, and we're going to have a fight for the women's title at there.
I agree. There's multiple different ways you can go with it, which is why I kind of like this scenario, because there's a lot of ways they can go with this. There could be heel turns involved. There could be just some underlying tension that develops between Charlotte and Becky if if one of them wins the championship. They could be one of them goes off. They could have to just fight each other in a singles match on SmackDown, and the winner faces Carmella and finally get the one-on-one match with Carmella at Hell in a Cell. So there's a lot of different routes they could go with it. And that's always a good thing. It's good to have a lot of options available to you and you don't exactly know which way they're going. But I don't know, part of me feels like I like, for instance, I walked into SummerSlam last year thinking, oh, they've got to give Nakamura the championship against Jinder Mahal. And that was more me just hoping more than expecting. And so I'm not going to fall into that trap again. So I'm just going to expect Carmella wins. And if it doesn't, then it feels even better.
It's a happy surprise.
I got the prediction wrong, but I feel even better because of it. But if she wins, well, at least I got the prediction right.
I'm going to stick to my guns that Becky Lynch wins.
Yeah, I'm going Becky.
But, hey, I said it before, can never rule out anything when it comes to the SummerSlam card, because this is their chance to...
Charlotte.
No, can't do that either.
I do want to just say real quick, the idea of the 4 horsewomen being the 4 women to have the first women's tag title match would be nice, but I think those 4, or at least half of them, need to be in a prominent singles match at Evolution. Just because they helped so much that I think having them in a tag while it's Ronda versus Stephanie for the Raw title and Lana and Carmella versus Naomi for the SmackDown title would just seem really strange.
Ronda versus Stephanie, huh?
I just threw that out there.
I was like, well, there could be worse. You could do like Ronda versus Dana or something. It's not gonna happen, but you know. Let's move on to the Intercontinental Championship match. That is Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins. If you feel like this is a step down because it's not an Iron Man match or any kind of gimmick, can't really fault you on that. But WWE is banking on the idea that you're excited just because Dean Ambrose is back in the mix, which basically means what happens with Dean Ambrose in this, because that's the story. Does Dean Ambrose turn?
Basically beans.
Did it sound like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Basically, beans are happening here. Lima, string. What's happening with Ambrose? That's the story that we're going with. Does Ambrose turn heel and cost Seth Rollins the match? Does he balance out Drew McIntyre and Rollins wins the match and the title? And we get that heel turn heading towards WrestleMania. You know, we got Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship, because they did want to do that at last year's WrestleMania. Not necessarily for the Intercontinental title, but Rollins versus Ambrose. He's got a new haircut. Maybe he's got a new allegiance and he's a heel again. Or do we get something that's kind of a combination of it? Does Ambrose balance out the Drew McIntyre equation, but Ziggler still ends up retaining the title through, you know, holds the tights or something like that? I think it's one of those 3 options. I don't think that this is going to come down to just Rollins wins the title, Ambrose isn't a factor, or Ziggler retains the title and Ambrose doesn't do anything. I think it's all Ambrose. Guys agree or disagree?
How much better would this card be if, and this is not a knock on Rollins and Ziggler, obviously, I love those guys, but if this was the tag team title match, how much better would that sound?
If that was the tag team title match and Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin was for the Intercontinental title, imagine that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd rather have Axel versus Scott Dawson, but you
know. So I'm gonna start this by talking about the Ziggler McIntyre pairing, and we make a lot of jokes about Ziggler, especially with me. But really, Ziggler is like that relationship that, you know, man, this person hurt me, I'm not going back there again, and then they get you. That's the way I feel about Ziggler right now. Like, they've been so start-stop with him that I'm like, I refuse to really be invested and really get behind Ziggler. And just within the last month or so, and the pairing with McIntyre helps so much here. He's cutting great promos. I think what he's saying is believable. It's not just, I'm going to steal the show because I'm that damn good. You know, he's saying things that you can go, well, he's right. there's truth rooted there, and I'm just so happy with what they're doing with him. And Rollins is the only legitimate babyface that Raw has, and it's just
Strowman.
I the words were out of my mouth, and I said, "Oh shit, Strowman," so I had to say it. But he's one of the two, and I love everything that they've done with these guys. Obviously, Ambrose is the X factor. I hate the haircut. Say it every time, but I don't think he turns heel here. I think it's gotten to the point where it's way too obvious that they're just not going to do it here because there's too much that's just like, oh, that was a dead giveaway. So I think Ambrose helps Rollins win here, and maybe we get a fatal 4-way with these guys at the next pay-per-view, and Ambrose can take the Intercontinental title there, and then they can start having like a, well, who's the better man kind of feud, and it can devolve from there. But I don't think we get a heel turn from Ambrose here.
I'm going with the idea that I think Ambrose does turn heel. It seems like the way to progress forward with Rollins, because if Rollins wins the Intercontinental Championship here, it's just, okay, so he's Intercontinental Champion again. What's next? And what next would make most sense is he feuds with Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship, but if Ambrose has helped him win the match, then that doesn't really feel like it's going to happen. And I think there's still legs to the Ziggler McIntyre pairing still with the championship in their possession. Ziggler could lose the championship to, I mean, I don't want it to, but Bobby Roode or Finn Balor down the line, or I don't know, someone like, if they decide to randomly push Chad Gable or something along those lines. There are a few different baby faces, like Bobby Lashley even, or if they want to turn Elias babyface. There's a few different options there. Whereas Rollins, I don't see anyone else that he could feud with over the title other than Ziggler and McIntyre. Like, I don't really want to see him feuding with Mahal for the championship. No. They've already done a few things with him and Owens over the title, so even though the matches would be good, it's kind of been done before. And too recently to revisit it. The idea of him and Ambrose feuding could carry them all the way through to the turn of the year. So, and it gives Ambrose a lease of life coming back to give him something to immediately sink his teeth into, and then use the feud as a springboard into whatever's next for either of them, whether it's Rollins catapulting himself into the world championship scene, Ambrose fighting in the main event or in the mid card or whatever, all leading towards the Royal Rumble. I think that has a lot more, and I know they feuded before, but it's been quite a few years since then, so there's a chance for things to develop, and maybe it's just the idea that Ambrose has gotten so frustrated sitting on the sidelines and watching Rollins and Reigns get a lot more attention, a lot more spotlight. It was just his opportunity to stand back out from the crowd and show the WWE Universe that he's not lazy and he doesn't take his foot off the gas. He's now back with a new, renewed attitude, and he's going to take it out on everybody that he sees, starting with Seth Rollins. And I think that's the best way forward.
It's a great idea. I want to ask you, what do you guys think about Ambrose overall? Like, do you think he's obviously better when he feuds with Rollins and when he's connected to the Shield guys, but do you think he's not so great other than that?
He's Razor Ramon. He's a guy that is popular. He serves a major function in that upper mid-card spot. He benefited of having the brand split to be the world champion. May not have won that if it would have been the one champion type of scenario. And he's going to have good feuds here and there, heel or babyface, and I think he's already kind of peaked.
I wouldn't say that he's peaked. I think he's gotten stale because of his babyface character. I think the original thing with the Lunatic Fringe was good because he was a bit unpredictable, and people would say, "Oh my god, this could be the next Steve Austin," which was never going to be the case because I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's out of the three in the ring. Him, Reigns, and Rollins, he's the worst in the ring. And I just go along the lines of he needs to be a heel because I know Reigns has always been a babyface since that point, but he's always been a heel in the eyes of certain people in the fans, so that it's kind of offset it, whereas Rollins has gone from heel to babyface back again, so he's had that journey. Ambrose is just kind of, I mean, the injury gives him a chance to freshen up, but before then he was pretty much running in place. So I think if they want to turn him heel, it's the chance to actually give him a chance to rediscover some of the fire that probably went out during the last few months of his time before the injury.
Yeah, he definitely benefited the most from the Shield reunion. I really like him. I just don't see what a lot of other people see. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, he's so great, he can do so many things. I've never seen it click for me unless he's in the ring with Rollins or Reigns.
It's tough to kind of project where he should go in the future because that heel turn has to happen at some point. And if it happens here, kind of seems like they already jumped the gun and they do Rollins versus Ambrose, so then what do they do at WrestleMania? If they wait, Callum brought up a good point. Who does Rollins fight? Owens? Well, he's going to be in the main event type picture. Jinder Mahal, kind of losing Bobby Lashley in the mix there. Unless you turn him heel, you're kind of losing a lot of different people. And again, this is another thing I keep going back to. I hope that whatever they do, they have a plan. And it's not just, wouldn't it be interesting if blah, blah, blah for SummerSlam, and we'll figure out everything post SummerSlam afterward. I don't want Monday Night Raw to be a scramble to try to figure out how you can balance out the rest of the card for the next couple of months. So if they go with Rollins winning the title, okay. Prove to me that you've got a plan for WrestleMania. And that your plan for WrestleMania isn't to do something that you're also going to do over the next couple of months. Because remember, they do that every once in a while, where it'll be like somebody fights somebody at like Fastlane, and then it's like, but the rematch is happening at WrestleMania, and you're like, well, who gives a shit? You know, like, I don't want one of those kind of things. You put the title on Rollins, give me however many months of decent stuff to lead to whatever the big thing is at WrestleMania. You make Ambrose turn heel on Rollins. Prove to me that you didn't do it just to have a blow-off match at Hell in a Cell, and then at WrestleMania, these two are in the, 5-man Intercontinental title match.
I'm going to just say what I want to hear. If they do turn Ambrose, I hope that they go full on with the feud, and if they're in the same area, they're fighting. And there's that level of intensity there, because they can't just do the whole, I thought you were my brother thing again. They have to go straight for it. If they're going to feud, they need to beat the shit out of each other.
Push comes to shove, I'm saying Ziggler drops the title here, because it's easy to do Ziggler and McIntyre versus Rollins and Ambrose going forward in tag matches.
I'm going to have to agree.
Ziggler retains, Ambrose turns heel.
That's one thing that I do like about this SummerSlam card is there's pretty much not all that much that we're going, okay, everybody's agreeing about this one.
I'm going to say, I hope Callum's right, but my mind is saying a completely different thing.
What does your heart say?
My heart says that Ziggler's going to be pushed down to the bottom of the card and you're going to get hurt again.
I don't know what my heart says, but I know it will go on.
But my body. Well, we can all agree about this match at the very least. Ronda Rousey's beating Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship, right?
It's about time. There is the part of me that thinks they want to save this moment for Evolution. It's like everything with the leading up to that because they want to make that show big, and rightly so. So they need something big to happen on that show. So have Ronda Rousey win the championship. That's arguably the biggest thing they could possibly do. But it makes so much more sense to do it at SummerSlam. More people will be watching at SummerSlam. SummerSlam's the bigger event. It's the more historical event.
Coverage.
Yeah. So strike when the iron's hot. Don't just stall. And by the time you get to Evolution, Ronda Rousey's slightly less over because you've already had her lose multiple times or get screwed over multiple times by Alexa Bliss. Just give her the title now when she's the hottest thing going.
Yeah, and then put Alexa in that multi-women match that they're probably going to do.
Yeah, and then you do, at Evolution, you do Ronda Rousey versus the Bat that attacked her on Raw.
There's a bat.
Suddenly she goes from the baddest woman on the planet to being like, oh shit. Which I don't blame her, because it's like, why is there a bat flying around? And why is it there instead of anywhere else in the entire arena?
I do hope we see Batman in the crowd at some point during this show.
I want somebody to pull out a sign that says the baddest woman on the planet. And it's just a picture of a bat with it. I hope that's the case. And I hate to kind of run through this too quickly, but it's like, yeah, Alexa Bliss drops the title.
Yeah.
That's it, kind of. Like,
I think the real question with this one is, how long does this match last?
I would have originally said it's really quick, but Ronda Rousey's impressed me. And I got a feeling it's going to be some...
Back to our WrestleMania conversation about Nia Jax. This is
Really?
exactly what we said.
That it should be really quick and whatever?
Nia's obviously winning the belt here, but how quick is it going to be? And then they dragged it out.
Well, I think that this is going to be better than the Nia Jax match.
Oh, considerably.
And I'm kind of banking on maybe something like 12 minutes. Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably the likelihood that that's going to happen because Rousey is impressive in the ring. She's far better than her level of experience should be, which is great. And Alexa can carry good matches for a good length of time. But personally, I want this match to go 30 seconds. I want it to have the Ultimate Warrior treatment. I want Alexa Bliss to try and throw Alicia Fox and Mickie James if she's healthy again. Just throw it straight at Ronda Rousey. She takes them both out immediately. Alexa gets chased around the ring. She gets thrown around a couple of times, gets locked in the armbar, taps out. And then you do the rematch, which can be the more extended match. Like you do some sort of injury angle or something going into the match where she's taken out Rousey's leg or something and can start working that over during the match. But I think this match should be, I mean, especially when you've got 10 matches on the main card, even if you are going 6 hours long, you can afford to have one match just be blink and you miss it. I mean, they did
if
that
that's
with
the case, I want that to be the Lesnar Reigns one, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, but that's obviously an option as well. But they did the thing with Rusev and Randy Orton last year that only went how many seconds
5
it went
seconds.
on. Yeah, so they can do the same. They can do a short, quick thing, and it just makes Rousey look like so much more of a badass. That she already does look like she beat up 4 security guards in the thing building up to it. I do have to say the build for Ronda Rousey in general since she's been in WWE has been excellent. They really made her out to be the star that she should be.
I agree. As soon as they got rid of that Stephanie angle, they have done wonders with her.
Yeah.
And she's not a good promo, and she certainly doesn't quite get some of the mannerisms down, but it just goes to show you if you push somebody as a big deal, they come off like a big deal.
Yeah. And even though her promos aren't great by WWE standards, they at least feel real for the most part. She comes across as a bit more genuine. And maybe that's the fact that she's not very good at it. It makes her look genuine. And yeah, the facials, expressions, everything along those lines. It's just it's all coming together well. And I just don't want them to stall with this one because they don't. Like you say, Tony, they may not have plans going forward, but even if they don't have plans, they can't stall on this because they do that so often. They just eventually just turns everyone, brings everyone down to what they could have potentially been. And
do you think Brooklyn is behind Ronda?
I think there'll be a smattering of people that go against her, but there's been no indication that the hottest crowds in wrestling would be turning against her. So I think even though there might be a bit of a smattering of people saying, "Oh, it's Rousey," it's she's being pushed too fast, too soon type thing. I think they've done enough of the good job of building her as a babyface to have her cheered when she wins this match.
And I feel like she comes from an era of legitimacy that's different than this is a homegrown WWE guy that we really want to push, like a Roman Reigns.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, well, it's Ronda Rousey. Of course she's being pushed. Like,
I'd say if she was fighting someone like a Sasha Banks or a Bailey or something like that, then maybe, if they were heel for any reason, then that might be a bit more of a 50-50 thing. But there's also people that turn their nose up at Alexa Bliss because she's not really a wrestler, quote unquote. So that sort of aspect of it means that she's the perfect person to be fighting Rousey to defend the championship with.
Yeah. Let's move on to The Miz versus Daniel Bryan. That is a feud that many of us have said that we potentially would have wanted for WrestleMania, but we're getting it for SummerSlam, which in my mind rules it out for WrestleMania. But in the past, we've done the whole thing where they've had that kind of match, then they've done it again, and then they've done it again, and then they've done it again. The fact that they already acknowledged pretty much everything that I wanted them to acknowledge means that I'm kind of going with, I want this to be the end of it, and to not do it at WrestleMania, because I feel like they're just going to be retreading familiar ground. Just kind of sad for me a little bit, because it means that it rules that out for me. But hey, maybe we get Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. Maybe we get Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe. Whatever the case may be, hopefully The Miz is doing something pretty well. Everything with this, I think, revolves into the whole contract situation. Does Daniel Bryan stick around? And if he does, what do you do with him? If he doesn't stick around, what do you do as a send-off? There's two different philosophies for both of the different scenarios. If he stays, do you give Daniel Bryan the win and maybe have another match at Hell in a Cell where The Miz is like pissed that he lost and stuff? Or you move on and it's just kind of Daniel Bryan puts away that demon and that's about it. Or if he stays, do you put The Miz over and then Daniel Bryan fights back from underneath? If he leaves, do you give Daniel Bryan the positive send-off? He wins, he ends his WWE career, so to speak, because he could always come back, by beating the person who he was teamed up with from the very beginning? Or if he leaves, do you give it to The Miz because he's the one sticking around? I lean more in the direction that The Miz winning makes the most sense out of any of those four scenarios. How do you guys feel?
I think... go ahead.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I think that Miz will probably win here because I think they probably see more of a story in Bryan really having to chase this demon and get this monkey off his back, so to speak. I don't know if The Miz wins by pulling the tights, or maybe he doesn't even win and he just runs away, and that's the catalyst for Bryan and Miz having a Hell in a Cell match. But I definitely don't see Bryan just getting the happy win here. I am a little sad, well, more than a little sad that this match isn't at WrestleMania for the WWE title, or at least at SummerSlam for the WWE title. I think there's more of a chance that it would be a real high caliber main event if there had some kind of stakes on it. Like, like I even threw out the idea of they're teasing Bryan leaving and what's up with his contract. Maybe, you put Bryan's career on the line and then Bryan wins and it's like, oh, I guess he's staying. But I just think that this match having no stakes leaves it open for The Miz to win in a pretty shady fashion and we get some kind of a rematch down the line.
So should they bring in Otis Dozovic?
Yeah, stakes and weights, baby. I hope it's a great match because it's the one I've been looking forward to for the longest time, but I don't see them stealing the show as they did in Clash of Champions 2010.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be the best match of the card or anything. I think that if anybody goes into this expecting it to be a barn burner, they're going to be a little bit disappointed.
No, I think it's going to be. I mean, again, you should set your expectations low for every match because that's the best way to approach things. But I think this match will be great, just by the sense of there's still at least enough reasonable suspicion of doubt this might be Daniel Bryan's last ever match on pay-per-view. And regardless of whether he stays or goes, he's going to make it the greatest match that he possibly can. So if that is the case, then I think this could be a sleeper to be match of the night in general. I would say that the feud leading up to this, I mean, obviously there's so much history behind it, which is like a really great thing. But until they did the video packages thing on the latest episode of SmackDown, this feud had been terrible in the short term. Because it had been completely overawed by the Miz and Mrs. stuff, rather than actually playing off the actual history between these two. It's like, oh, you're going to be doing this thing because, and I'm going to talk to you about this scenario because that's what's coming up in Miz and Mrs. next. And it was just a bit too hokey for me when they could have just really built up more of the personal animosity between the two of them. I mean, it was still okay because these two are great at what they do, but having it tinged with that commercial element just really soured me on the entire thing. I think
that's a Vince McMahon call.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's. I mean, if you are trying to convince Daniel Bryan to stick around, you're not doing a great job with that way of going about things. But I'll say that I pretty much agree with what Tony says. If there's at least any inkling that Daniel Bryan hasn't signed a new contract or is the potential to leave in September, then either way, you should just put the Miz over. Because if Bryan's going, as much as I like Bryan and maybe he does deserve like a happy send off, you shouldn't have a guy that's sticking around lose the match to a guy that's going to be going off to another company. Just doesn't make any sense. And if you are going to if he does stick around even, there's enough legs in this feud that you can have a rematch at Hell in a Cell, or you can stretch it out to a bit later in the year. Don't go obviously all the way up to them fighting just all the way up to WrestleMania because that's far too long. But you could definitely get 3, maybe 4 matches out of this. Add a few gimmicks and stipulations to it, then yeah, it has a bit more reach to it. But the smart decision is to have the Miz win this one.
Yep, I'm going the Miz too.
Isn't it ironic that Daniel Bryan just did the interview like a month ago and was like, well, you tell me, do you think they have the patience to wait till WrestleMania? And then we just get a pretty bland build to SummerSlam. And that's kind of been pissing me off the most about Bryan's SmackDown run here, is they've treated it so almost like if it's, well, it's obvious that he's back. What do you mean you didn't think he would ever come back? He's back and he's fighting Big Cass, and we're gonna give you the match with the Miz, and it's, it's just an average build, but it's more about Miz's reality show.
It is quite like amazing the amount of time it took from him being like, oh my god, it's so amazing, Daniel Bryan's back, to okay, he's just another guy on the roster again.
Literally, WrestleMania was the only special one, and by SmackDown he was just everybody else.
I still like him.
Oh, I still like it. Oh yeah, I still like it. Like,
no, I'm just undercutting you guys and making it seem like you guys are just being an asshole.
You don't need to do that.
It's part of me. It's part of my quote unquote charm, so to speak. I do think that this is. I think that this is one of those things that I'm very, very excited for, and I think that this could be a major deal. But at the same time, I'm trying to go into it with low enough expectations that it doesn't kill the card for me if it isn't the best thing ever, kind of. And I hope that other people do that too, because I'd rather be wrong and enjoy the hell out of it than to be right and kind of just be like, blah. Because this is one of the matches that I'm really hoping convinces me that SummerSlam is a good card, and one of the ones that I kind of feel is almost win-win, kind of. Like, it all depends on Daniel Bryan staying. I want Daniel Bryan to stay, and if I look back on this and it's like, okay, well, Daniel Bryan ended up leaving, it's going to be kind of disappointing. But I do think if Daniel Bryan wins and he leaves, at least he got a good send-off. If he loses and he leaves, at least The Miz got something that he can kind of piggyback off of. If he stays and Bryan wins, all right, well, he won, and it's up to The Miz to continue the feud. And if Bryan stays and The Miz wins, well, then they can continue the feud. It's a feud. It's kind of... This is the one match that I feel they can't screw up, kind of. So that sounds very negative to say a very positive thing, but that's kind of where I'm going with this. I'm very nervous about SummerSlam, if you can't tell. Before we get into I'm going to combine two of the matches together. So I'm just going to cut over to the WWE Championship match here. The AJ Styles against Samoa Joe. I think we might agree on this one. Samoa Joe has to win this title.
Yeah.
It's about damn time.
Yeah. Agree all the way.
He's
to
been
win, and it's about damn time. Go ahead, Cal.
He's been so good for so long without... I mean, he's had opportunities where he's fought Brock Lesnar and fought Roman Reigns and stuff to that effect, but he's been too good to not hold this championship yet. To hold any championship. It's just a bit of... It hurts him because he's so good at what he does, and he's such a great talker. He's so good in the ring that he hasn't held any championship yet, let alone the WWE Championship. Now he finally has an opportunity to go against like the guy who's held the title for so long, so it's going to be a credible win. It's a guy that he's so familiar with, has such a rich history with, so you know the match is going to be... It might not be up to the standards that if they would have been wrestling in 2005 or 2006, because they're not as fast or athletic at that time, but they know so much more about the business now. They know how to like structure matches to make it all work well. It's the perfect situation to put Samoa Joe over and start building for more matches down the line. I think Styles could go into great feuds with the likes of Bryan and Orton and Almas once he's away from the WWE Championship scene. And then you start building towards another dream match that everyone's been looking forward to, which is Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryan for the title, which hopefully will come around about WrestleMania time, but they could do it beforehand. You never know. But it's Joe's time to win the championship, 100%.
Well, Rob, where are you going with here? Is this Samoa Joe's time? Is AJ Styles going to retain and be an even longer running champion for SmackDown? Or, what do you think?
Well, AJ Styles has been a good champion. He hasn't been the level that I wish he was, but this is definitely Samoa Joe's time. First of all, Samoa Joe's run on the main roster has not been what it should have been. He came in right before WrestleMania last year. He got injured quick. He had a subpar feud with Rollins, and then he kind of just played second fiddle to Reigns and Strowman. With this feud, it deserves so much more. I think they learned a little bit from the Nakamura AJ feud by giving this some context and a good story behind it, but I still think that they're largely just like, hey guys, it's AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and won't this be a great match? And it will be, but you can't keep relying on, hey, look at the cool wrestlers we have on SmackDown. We need a good, dominant heel champion, and I think that's what we're going to get with Joe. I think AJ is going to get choked out here. Maybe they have a Hell in a Cell, but it's definitely Joe's time to shine.
Do you guys think that Joe keeps it to WrestleMania if he wins it here?
I would.
I was thinking Royal Rumble.
I think SmackDown's been, whether you agree with the Jinder Mahal thing or not, it's a lot better than what it used to be in the thing that they had, like, was it 5 WWE champions in the space of 4 months or whatever it was, at the start of 2017? and they gave Jinder Mahal an extended title reign. They've given Styles a long title reign. I think it's good to build up that sort of trend. And I think Joe's the sort of character that can hold a title for 6 months and be the dominant heel that the babyface overcomes at WrestleMania.
That babyface more than likely being Daniel Bryan.
If he's still around, and if not, then you give it to Rusev, because I like Rusev.
Yeah, Rusev versus Joe. That'd be an interesting match.
Well, remember, that's another thing that's pretty tough is where do you go with Samoa Joe after AJ Styles? There's not a whole lot of baby faces to pick from.
Well, I'm assuming him and Styles will continue for a few months, so you have time to build up a babyface until then. And then I assume you'd move on to probably Rusev as a stopgap thing. Maybe someone like, if Hardy is healthy again, you could throw him into it. If you bring someone up from NXT like an EC3 or an Aleister Black, then you probably move into that territory as well. But there just needs to be enough people around that you can get to the match with Bryan, and then that's the first time at WrestleMania, rather than like it's already had to happen because you don't have enough baby faces. So WWE have some work to do to build up some good baby faces. I mean, hell, give a match against Kofi Kingston or something.
I'll throw this out there. If they're really strapped for opponents and Joe has that belt till Mania, Ambrose can win the Rumble and Ambrose can go fight Joe. Joe is the guy that injured him.
Oh, then he doesn't turn heel, though.
That's true. But we don't know that he's turning heel. We're just assuming.
Yeah, and like you said, Tony, there's quite an imbalance towards heels at the moment.
Yeah, they need to turn some people babyface. They need to... I still think that they really, really need to put somebody like a Bobby Roode or a Finn Balor over on SmackDown. And if they bring over like a Finn Balor, that would be really great because then he could fight for the United States title somewhere along the line, and he could fight Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. Meanwhile, if you lose Daniel Bryan and if you lose Jeff Hardy, then you're kind of screwed. There really isn't anybody left. And then I don't want to be looking at this and going, it's really a shame that Samoa Joe won that title and all they had in their arsenal was to have 15 matches against AJ Styles. I hope that they've planned this out. I really do. It's so nerve-wracking. But I do think that even if that's the case, I think that Samoa Joe still needs to win that championship because he needs it. They didn't give him anything on the main roster yet.
And if they're desperate, Royal Rumble's the kind of show where a guy like Cena can always come into play and be a good opponent for Joe.
Man, Undertaker versus Samoa Joe, I'd be down for that.
I would have been down for that 10 years ago. I don't know if...
It's not going to be good now, but
yeah.
I'd be down for at least the idea that it had happened, you know?
That's true.
Well, we got Hell in a Cell, and we've got Super Showdown, and then they're going to take a break when it comes to Evolution. And then after that, it's Survivor Series, and then TLC. Whoever you have at Hell in a Cell, I would assume it would be AJ Styles. You can still probably do it again and drag it out for a third month for the Super Showdown. And then Survivor Series, you have a break because he fights champion versus champion if you do that. So you have him against, I don't know, Roman Reigns probably, or something like that. And then TLC and Royal Rumble and all that is really where you have to go. So I guess you can kind of get away with AJ Styles and then 2 other people maybe over that time frame. So maybe, I don't know. Either way, Samoa Joe needs it. Even if they don't have a plan, he needs to win that title just to be able to say that he's been a WWE champion.
And I mean, they can easily get around this. Hell in a Cell with AJ Styles, you can have a triple threat or fatal 4-way at the Super Showdown. He can fight whoever the Universal Champion is at Survivor Series, and a throwaway match with like Jeff Hardy at TLC. And then when you need to start getting into the bulk of it, there's plenty of guys to go by the time we get to next year. So Joe needs this belt. I do wish the build was a little more prominent. Like, they haven't closed out many SmackDowns with this, except for this past weeks, and you guys had informed me that it's been like a really bad build. So
it's basically been, hey AJ, you don't like your family, and him being like, hey, fuck you, I like my family. And that's basically been it. So I'm kind of almost waiting for Claire Lynch to pop up.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know. Either way, I do know that the smarter decision is for Samoa Joe to win the title. And are we all going with that as our prediction, actually, or just what we want and hope?
No, I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
my
going to happen.
prediction.
Yeah.
So now we need to get into the two matches that I'm grouping together. Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line. And Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, again, for the Universal Championship. Because if you didn't see it 5 other times, this is going to be, the thing that you're going to want to see again and again and again and again and again.
Well, you don't take comfort in the fact that this is definitely the last time?
I would have said that before. It seemed like it could have been. Remember how many people were saying, oh, they're not going to go with Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? And then it became, oh, well, he lost at WrestleMania, so it's not like they're going to do that again at Backlash. And then it was like, no, they're going to do it at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And then it became, okay, well, he did it at the Greatest Royal Rumble, so clearly Bobby Lashley is going to win, and he's going to fight Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Would not shock me at all if Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar ends with something happening, and Brock Lesnar doesn't lose, or doesn't have to take the pin, and Roman Reigns doesn't win, and then we get that whole like, oh, we still didn't get a finish, maybe we'll do it again, that kind of a thing and stuff. And you know my opinions about this by now. Everybody who's followed anything for a year and a half by now or longer knows my opinions. I don't need to repeat about how much I think that this is stupid. But what I will throw out there is the Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman thing. I really, really, really love that they're putting the Money in the Bank on the line. But I really, really, really hate that it makes me nervous as hell that means what we're going to get here is Kevin Owens beats Braun Strowman by disqualification or something, and then he cashes in, and that's where we get Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens at Hell in a Cell. I do not want that. And even though that's Kevin Owens as the champion, and I like Kevin Owens, he's one of my favorites, I don't want this to ruin Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. If you tell me what I can do is I can pick however this is going to go down, but I just can't replace anything. Brock Lesnar beats Roman Reigns in 30 seconds, or Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar in 30 seconds. And then if we get a cash in, we get cash in, but it can't be a situation where, say, Owens steals a victory from Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar doesn't take the pin. Or Brock Lesnar beats the crap out of Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns finally beats him, and then Kevin Owens cashes in and wins. Or
so you're not okay with that scenario where
no,
you get a definitive end to Lesnar, and then we get cash in?
No, definitely not. And I don't want Braun Strowman to cash in and lose, and I don't want Braun Strowman to cash in and be a heel. I don't want Roman Reigns to win, and then there's no cash in, and then they try to do like babyface Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal at Hell in a Cell or something like that. For the most part, I was looking at The Miz as a win-win, no-lose possible scenario. I'm looking at Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Kevin Owens, Braun Strowman as a no possible win. The only way I will be 100% happy with this is if Brock Lesnar beats the shit out of Roman Reigns in 30 seconds, Braun Strowman cashes in, beats Brock Lesnar after a decent match. And it's not going to happen. Anything else like that, I'm going to be annoyed.
All right, Callum, well, I need a little bit of positivity, so go ahead.
Yeah. You're not going to find it from me.
Bit of positivity. I'll say this then. The way they've built this match, considering the fact that this is a match that going to it, very few people seem to want to see, and they've done it multiple times before, and there are issues with the matches and everything else going with it, issues with the Reigns character. This has been the best built match towards SummerSlam.
Agree.
Totally disagree.
The segments they put together, I mean, a lot of that is down to Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman is the greatest promo on WWE TV right now. He's it's clear that his hand has been in every single segment towards this in terms of the writing, the production, everything to do it. It all screams Paul Heyman's approach to wrestling. And they'd actually added a lot of intrigue and excitement to a match which seemed completely dead in the water. And most amazingly at all, and I know this isn't going to apply because it's Brooklyn and Brooklyn does what Brooklyn does, but they've gotten crowds to cheer Roman Reigns for the most part in all of these segments. And they're probably walking into this and they're going to be in for a really rude awakening. But Vince McMahon is probably walking into this thinking, oh my God, we finally got people to like Roman Reigns. He's going to go into this match. People are going to cheer for him winning. And then he realizes he's in Brooklyn and it's not going to go that way.
I think they know. I think they're resigned to the, well, it's Brooklyn, pal. It's one town out of the whole world.
And then they go to the next town, and it's that one, and it's one town in the whole.
Well, it's slightly different with Brooklyn because Vince McMahon cares more about what the New York crowd thinks compared to any other ones because he sees New York as this is where actual wrestling fans live, as opposed to everywhere else where it could be like Wacko Jacko Land or whatever, and they'll just cheer for whoever they want to. When it's New York, he seems to pay attention, and he'll pay attention to the fact that Roman Reigns won't get the reaction that he's been getting on recent episodes of Raw. It's a weird situation where they've decided to try and get Reigns over by making their champion as unlikable as possible. Yep. And it's been reasonably effective, but that's not the way that I would go about it myself, because it just means that when you get to Brooklyn, it's just going to be two guys that nobody really wants to see fighting it out in a match that nobody really cares about.
In a match that we've seen so many times, so we know exactly what's happening. And Brock Lesnar matches have not been good. He hasn't had a good match in a long time. It's just German suplex, German suplex, German suplex, German suplex. Oh my God, he hit a Superman punch. German suplex, spear, kick out, German suplex, F5, kick out, over and over and over again for however many minutes that they want to do it.
This may be the last time we talk about Lesnar.
It better be. I want him to just fucking leave. Like, I'm not even... Like, that's why I say one of the options that I would be okay with would be Roman Reigns beats him in 30 seconds. You know what? I would even go further than that. We were talking about the idea of like a 10-second thing with Ronda Rousey. Give me Brock Lesnar is on the opposite end of the ring. The bell rings. Roman Reigns hits a spear, and Brock Lesnar loses. Give me that, and I'll be even happier. Just because I don't want to see it. Like, the match itself, I don't want to see. And I don't want to see Roman Reigns hold the title as a babyface. I don't think he's going to turn heel. I don't want Brock Lesnar to retain the title. I don't want Brock Lesnar to lose in any way that makes him look like, well, he didn't quite lose. He's still Brock Lesnar. He's still the best guy out of everybody in the entire roster, and we have to protect him and all that. I'm over Lesnar. I'm over Reigns. I like Reigns, and I'm over him. And I don't want Owens to get that treatment where he's used as a prop to get over one of those two guys. And I don't want Strowman to do that. I kind of feel like Owens and Strowman are the two that I feel should be champions right now and are the more entertaining people, and they're going to get screwed. Like, I have no positivity for this whole thing.
Let me throw this out there just for... I mean, Rob, if you want to talk about this a little bit before I throw this out, then...
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm actually looking forward to this match more than any other match on the card. I have to agree with you, Callum. It's been the best built match. It was a match that I had initially said, doing the triple threat, doing WrestleZone chats, I had initially not wanted to talk about this because I was over it. But the way they've built this and the seeds that they've planted at least make you think, something big is going to happen here.
Will you agree? All right, I actually have two questions. Number one, will you agree that if nothing happens other than Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar do the same thing that they've done before, that it'll be even more disappointing?
Yes.
If it's the exact same as it was at WrestleMania and the Greatest Royal Rumble, then yeah, it will be a massive disappointment, and it has the potential to just turn a lot of people off from the WWE product.
And if Lesnar beats Reigns and there's no cash-in and we go off the air with Lesnar as the Universal Champion without a cash-in, yeah, bad. But I'll say this. If Lesnar walks through Reigns and Strowman tries to cash in, and Lesnar gets through Strowman, then you're left like, holy shit, what the fuck are we gonna do? And that's an intriguing outcome to me. If I do think that Heyman's story here is not done. I think there's a good chance he could still turn on Brock, even if that doesn't mean going with Roman.
Well,
So
my
I'm
second question for you guys is, you guys are much more positive about this than I am, which is good. Like, I'm not trying to say that that's a bad thing or anything like that, because I wish that I could be happy about this, because I want to enjoy this shit, and I don't. But in all honesty, being more positive about this, do you guys feel like WWE is making the right call? Like, that we should have had all this Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar stuff, and that this is the best possible thing we could have put on for SummerSlam? Like,
No,
is this
not
like...
for SummerSlam.
No,
WrestleMania made sense.
I WrestleMania did make sense because put it this way, if you want to do the retroactive thing and stuff like that, Reigns should have won at WrestleMania, and we shouldn't be in this situation. And even beyond that point, it should be Braun Strowman in this place, or it should be Seth Rollins in this place instead. That they're the more over baby faces. They would get the much more positive reaction if they beat Brock Lesnar. But
I mean, kind of like, we keep making the discussion that WWE clearly feels like we don't know what we like and what we want. And that, in their mind, they want us to want babyface Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar, and we want to see this story over and over and over and over again of, man, is now going to be the time when Roman Reigns can finally conquer the beast and whatever, and that they're going to beat it into our brains until we finally agree with them that we like it. And it's kind of like, if you're agreeing that this is like the best match on the card that you're most excited to see and stuff like that, are you acknowledging that you think that WWE has proven now that they know what you want more than what you want? Or is
No.
it just that they just happen to get lucky enough that that Paul Heyman cut one promo that you're interested in?
It was more than the Heyman promo. It's the whole story of it. It's the whole, I'll admit they lost me a little when Heyman already, revealed that it was a ruse and turned on Reigns. I would have kept that going into SummerSlam, because that had me very hooked. But what's intriguing me here is the possibilities. The idea that you could do something like Lesnar looks like a freaking monster and runs through Strowman after running through Roman. Would that be the best thing for the Raw product? Maybe not, but I'll be honest, it would have me asking questions. What I think we're gonna end up getting here is where I say, I hope I'm wrong, but this is where we're going. I think. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're about to finish off your point, so don't want to interrupt.
I think we're going with Kevin Owens wins the Universal title. I think Roman finally conquers Lesnar, and I think Corbin does something, and we get Kevin Owens as like an authority favored champion, because in the entire 2-year history of the Universal title, and I'll go even further and say CM Punk was the last heel champion that had no part-time treatment and no authority favoritism. He was just a heel champion that was there every week. Every champion since, whether it be Orton or Rollins, they've all, even Sheamus, they've all been authority-favored champions or Brock Lesnar. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that, unfortunately, to get a full-time champion, we have to go through the authority heel stuff.
I fully agree. I think it's exactly what's happening. I think that they've set up that there's a friendship between Baron Corbin and Kevin Owens, and that you could have every other match on the card be amazing, and if this is the end of the card, the end of the pay-per-view, I'm going to be in a sour-ass mood. And it's going to make me really hate Monday Night Raw going forward. Callum, please save me from the negativity.
Well, to go back to your point in terms of like the idea that WWE has seemingly beat some people into submission by being positive about this match, I think it's just a testament to the fact of, I mean, I can only speak for myself and for like the stuff that Rob was saying as well, in that we can take it. It's testament to the fact that if we see WWE doing something well, at least in our own opinions, then we will give them credit for it, even if we think that there's certain things that are overarchingly wrong with the products and this wasn't the match that we initially would have wanted if we put our minds together and thought about it. The fact that they have given us this match, but then have done they have done their absolute best to make this a palatable match for the people that weren't originally interested into it. And it's worked for me, it's worked for Rob, it's worked for other people, because I've heard other people talk about their interest in this match and the fact that they are more excited for it than they would have originally anticipated. It's a testament to actually putting good work together, and that they can actually turn, not for everyone, obviously, because I know you're not going to change your mind. You're well within your rights to not change your mind, because what they've done in the past hasn't been very good. So,
and I'll fully acknowledge, by the way, I liked that little tease, that like the Paul Heyman interview with Renee Young. I liked it. It just wasn't enough for me to be like,
yeah.
It's kind of like saying, you gave me. I'm just gonna tie this into a food analogy from recently. I went to an all-you-can-eat like Brazilian steakhouse type thing the other day, where they continually give you more of whatever different cuts of meat and stuff like that. And I liked pretty much everything that I had gotten. But if they had given me, say, out of the 20 different cuts of meat that they had put out there, if I had disliked a bunch of them, and then they gave me one or two that I liked, but they only came around once in a while, I'd be like, oh, that place sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And well, their steak was good, but their chicken was awful, and their ham was awful, and whatever. And I kind of feel like that with this. It's sort of like, yeah, I'll give you a golf clap when it comes to the Renee Young interview, but shit, you should have done that 2 years ago. And you've given me months and months and months and months and months of so much crap that I'm like, I'm not even willing to smile or smirk at it anymore, because you're going to hit me with more bullshit afterward, And
I totally understand that way, and that's like a completely understandable approach to take to it. I'm personally going with the approach of, at the very least, it's going to be a relief if Roman Reigns wins, because at least it's the end of this saga and we can finally move on. And there are enough intriguing possibilities or different outcomes that can come to it that I'm thinking this match has more. This match feels like it has huge stakes attached to it, and not a noticed over stake, but like legitimate. Like, if this match needs something big to happen, otherwise it could be like absolutely disastrous. And part of me, like the really sadistic side of me, wants to see the train wreck of just having Brock Lesnar win clean and just walking out of the arena. It's like, oh my God, what is that reaction going to feel like? But the more rational side of me is thinking, oh, there's going to be something big that happens here that actually changes the landscape, that actually puts someone, whether it's Reigns or they have Owens or Strowman with the briefcase cash in, something is going to change that's a significant movement to the future, or what the WWE landscape is going to look like for the next few months.
Well, I had said... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to round it off with my actual prediction. My prediction, because, and I was going to bring this up earlier, but I might as well just mention it now, is that Brock Lesnar is advertised for the next night's episode of Raw.
Yep.
So that he will be, at least by those standards. I know cards, so it's changed and all that stuff, but based on those announcements, he will be appearing on the next night. So I think Lesnar beats Reigns on this show, and then he gets cashed in by Strowman on Raw.
Now, before they had announced the Money in the Bank match, I had the prediction from the minute this match was announced, Lesnar wins, he goes to Raw and doesn't just get beat by Strowman, he gets fucking ragdolled from one end of the Barclays Center to the next. And then Strowman is your babyface champion.
I would be so down for that.
I'd still totally love that. I will say, watching Raw on Monday, I get it with Strowman. Strowman was crazy over on Raw, and I think he can carry the ball going towards WrestleMania. But I just can't see them changing their stripes but I'm praying that they do because there's enough outcomes that they should be able to and still do something intriguing.
Now, our predictions are 2 for Kevin Owens walks away with the title, which, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a cop-out. We're not specifying if Roman Reigns necessarily wins and then gets cashed in on, but that's probably where we're going to go. If it doesn't, and Kevin Owens comes in during the match like a Seth Rollins thing, it still kind of counts. And 1 for Lesnar retains and then potentially drops it and stuff. But I already set my piece on what I would hope would happen. Rob, you just said that is what you're, like, you would be up for a Strowman cash in like that. Is that your go-to of what you would hope would happen? Or would you go with something else? And I have one more question, too, about the Roman Reigns thing that I need to pitch to you guys, just in case, to set up our post-show talk.
You know what, though? Because there's so many things. Part of me hopes to see Roman just finally do it and walk away with the title. He hasn't been able to have this moment since WrestleMania 2 years ago, and they keep trying to make him out to be this, he's the big dog, he's the big superstar. I think he needs a big win. So what I'm really hoping for, in terms of, without talking Raw the next night, what I'm hoping for at the end of SummerSlam is Roman beats Lesnar and Roman's the champion. Whatever happens next, we can deal with, but at least we finally got there with Roman and they can stop, really trying to push it.
What about you, Callum? What's your preferred way that all this goes down?
Above all else, with the Reigns character, I understand that he has a fan base, and obviously he has his detractors, but he has a fan base as well that are fully behind him. The thing I just want to see with the Reigns character is an evolution, and obviously that's a word that's bandied around in WWE quite a lot at the moment. But I don't want woman Reigns to win the women's championship or whatever. But I want to see his character change, and I think the best way to do that is to have him lose again, just utterly snap because of it. Maybe after he loses, manages to get up when Lesnar's celebrating, beat the absolute fuck out of him with steel chairs, steel steps, breaking through the announce table, whatever. Lesnar walks into Raw, excited about still being the Universe Champion. He's beaten up. That's the opportunity for Strowman to cash in. Obviously, it seems like a bit of a heel thing to do, but, And then Roman is on a one-man mission to prove that everyone that has been getting on his back for years, it's time to finally stick it to them. And he just starts beating the fuck out of everybody. He becomes this one-man wrecking ball that he's always had the ability to be. So my hope is that Reigns loses here to finally catapult into being the ass-kicking motherfucker that he should have been from the very beginning.
God, I love it. I didn't know we could go full fantasy booking. Yeah, that's the one I want too.
Now, my other question for you guys, because we have to address the possibility of the whole situation. If Roman Reigns wins the title and he's just a babyface, or if Roman Reigns wins the title and gets cashed in on and loses and he's just a babyface, or if he loses the match and somebody else like Kevin Owens cashes in and then we still stick around with babyface Roman Reigns, is your opinion going to change in any bit? Is it going to be like, well, Roman Reigns finally beat Brock Lesnar and there was no cash in and I'm excited to see where he goes next? Or is it just going to be, thank God we're not doing this anymore? And then on Monday Night Raw it becomes, all right, well, now I'm already sick and tired of Roman Reigns as champion. Let's get it on somebody else.
It depends on how long they push Roman versus Kevin and if Roman's going to come out of that successfully. My immediate gut reaction will be, fuck it. I knew they couldn't do something original, but thank God we have a full-time champion. That's going to be my immediate reaction.
So like a lesser of two evils?
Yes, very much so.
I think my reaction will just be a mixture of both scenarios you put forward. It's obviously going to be just a relief because this saga's finally over, but it's the idea of, it's intriguing because everything that essentially Roman Reigns has been involved of since the build up to WrestleMania 31 has been him against Lesnar. Roman's story, like obviously he's had match with The Undertaker, he won the title from Triple H, all that other stuff, the Shield reunion. There's been things surrounding it, but the main arcing narrative for him has been trying to beat Brock Lesnar. And then that ends. A 4-year odyssey, if you want to call it, good or bad, like cuts off. Lesnar's no longer in the picture, seemingly. And then then it's just going to be, it's going to be at least intriguing where Reigns goes next, or what's Reigns' next big thing. Is he gonna like use this as like, now he's the one that's beaten Lesnar, he's the man to beat, he becomes not so much the next Lesnar in terms of like dominance, but does he start to evolve a little bit to the point where he's the next, like, the real like big guy that can't be beaten, and that makes him an arrogant asshole because he's beaten Lesnar. Nobody else could manage to do that recently, like for the longest time, and he managed to do it. So that makes him the best guy around. Or does he get screwed out of it pretty soon afterwards and has to go on another journey to chase someone else for the title? Whether that's you turn Strowman heel, which I wouldn't recommend because he's so much more over, or you make Ambrose a heel and you put him in the title picture, or obviously Owens or any other person. It's whether you decide to make Roman the next Brock or you find a new Brock for Roman.
I want
and either
Roman
way,
to
it's
be
interesting.
the next Brock. Here's why. They keep trying to tell this story of Roman being crowned. Roman's been crowned 3 times already. And one of them was against Triple H at WrestleMania. He had the huzzah, he's done it moment. Granted, he didn't get that win against Lesnar, but I would argue that that entire story leading to him beating Triple H for the title, maybe people in the arena didn't like it, but it was the best story and it made the most sense. And they keep wanting him to just be the babyface that chases. And like you were saying, Roman's a fucking ass-kicking badass. He shouldn't be this plucky underdog. It was kind of that thing that I always hated with Cena. You know, Cena's such an underdog. No, but he's been champion 7 times. You can't really be an underdog if you've been the top dog already. You know what I mean? And that's why I really, my dream scenario is Roman finally wins it and holds on to it for a while.
It's at least, I mean, I know certain people, and totally understandably will be just completely burned out and just want this match to be over, and may not even pay that much attention to it because they've been burnt out on this enough.
Oh, I'm not even watching it probably.
Yeah, but
I'll be writing up my articles instead.
Yeah. But it's like the idea of, I don't think there's any match that has the sort of implications that this match has on the show, and that at least makes it, this match really will make or break SummerSlam.
Yep.
Because it'll go on last, and even if the show had been great up to that point, and obviously you can still take it with a grain of salt that, oh, at least the rest of the show was good, and then there was just this. You can still look back on it slightly fondly, but it won't have the same emotional connection if this match really tanks the way that it can potentially tank. But what if it does something memorable, if it does create a moment, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whether it's Reigns hoisting the title aloft, or it's Strowman running in with, or Owens running in with the briefcase in the middle of the match or towards the end of the match or whatever, at least that could really send this night home on something memorable and potentially positive.
Let me ask you a question, because you and I are a lot more positive about this than Tony.
Significantly.
What is it for you? Like you were saying, the saga can finally end. What is more draining for you? The fact that Roman keeps chasing Lesnar, or the fact that Lesnar has taken the top title away from the top show?
I mean, I always take that with a grain of salt, in that, like, Lesnar's taken the top title away from the top show. It's WWE that's taken the top title away from the top show. If they wanted Lesnar to appear more, they'd pay him more.
Well, I know. I'm just trying to. But
it's the sense that it's more a case of the more draining aspect is the fact that Reigns doesn't seem to change. He doesn't seem to go. He doesn't seem to like, he obviously feels the effect of these losses, but it doesn't change his attitude. Whereas it should make him a different person, but it just seems to be it's the case where it just seems to be going through the motions with him, that they should have done this at WrestleMania and then things would have gone through it, and nothing feels like it's
Nothing
changed.
changes.
Yeah, nothing's changed between the build to this and really the build to SummerSlam, other than the fact that they've added a bit of intrigue with obviously the Money in the Bank's available and Paul Heyman getting involved a bit more and stuff to that effect. But above all else, it's just Roman Reigns saying that he's the guy that's around all the time and he's going to bring back the title home from the evil clutches of Lesnar, the part-timer Lesnar. And that was the same thing that was going into WrestleMania. So that's the thing that's the most draining aspect of it, is the fact that they haven't pulled the trigger on this story when they could have done it so many months or even years earlier. And Reigns' attitude to it has never changed.
You think that a lot of this is Vince McMahon realizing that the UFC is a thing maybe a couple years too late?
I think part of him wants to see Lesnar walk into the UFC, his match with Daniel Cormier with the Universal Championship, not realizing that as soon as Lesnar does step into the octagon with Daniel Cormier, he's going to get his ass kicked and he's going to be beaten so badly and it's going to make WWE look like such a piece of shit. But I don't think it's that. I think it's just a case of they think Lesnar's a bigger deal than he actually is. And the reason why he's not a big deal now is because they've booked him. They've needed to build Reigns up, and they've done it by making Lesnar so not worthless, but like so much less of a powerful character. Because the whole story of this match is it's not really. It's partly about Reigns winning the title, but it's more we need to get the title off of Brock Lesnar because, as Kurt Angle was saying, he's the worst Universal Champion of all time. It's like, yeah, I'm really excited to see the worst Universal Champion of all time compete.
Well, the story of this is, aren't we pissing off our fans?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
it's like, yes, you are. Knock it off.
Yeah, it's like Lesnar having the title for so long, and the way they've done it seems to be a deliberate attempt to piss off the fans. So they have to accept Reigns wins the title because at least it means it's not on Lesnar anymore.
It's the lesser
and then you know what happens? It gets a temporary like, thank God. And then on Monday Night Raw, everybody goes boo, and they start the whole thing all over again because then they go, all right, we got that out of the way. Now we can continue to shit on Roman Reigns. Or they shit on him even more because then it means WWE spent all this time pissing us off, and this is the guy that they want us to do. Fuck you. You spent all this time pissing us off. We're going to go even more against you.
I think maybe it's just a case of maybe I shouldn't be giving WWE this sort of credit, or maybe it's just me deciding for once to be naive going into these sort of matches because I've seen what they've done before. Why should I expect any different? But there's always going to be, especially when it involves Roman Reigns, that lingering hope that something different is going to happen eventually. And that's the one thing that I always cling to. And if it doesn't happen, eventually it's going to turn me off the entire product because if they're going to build the entire brand around Roman Reigns and it's never ever going to change, in the same way a lot of people probably took to John Cena in his role, but to that sort of effect, nothing is ever going to change with Reigns, and he's always going to be a guy who gets his moments of holding the championship, but then is, for the most part, just always chasing as the underdog babyface. Then
they're going to turn him into Cena for real this time.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people hated about Cena.
And it will turn more and more people off to the product because at least Cena was at a time where WWE had like a huge viewership and was slowly being whittled down under Cena's reign. Now they have that small like fan, obviously like sizable compared to other things, but significantly smaller compared to decades ago fan base, and it's going to go down even further with Reigns, especially if competition like Ring of Honor, New Japan, whatever, start to gain a lot more popularity.
Well, then that's when they go and they say, well, we're giving them the Roman Reigns stuff that we want to give them, but hey, we gave them Undisputed Era, and we gave them the Evolution thing, and
Yeah.
there's
Smack-
enough
And
goodwill
that's
that we
what-
can,
That's
know,
when they'll start to go like, oh, we'll give you what you want. We'll give big money to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and bring them in and stuff like that. But Roman Reigns will still be the guy. Just means that the other promotions won't have their big stars anymore.
See,
Yeah.
but this is the main problem I have with the two brands. With Raw, it's like, well, these are the big stars, and this is what you want to see, even if you don't want to admit it. And with SmackDown, they're just like, hey, you see, we played AJ Styles against Shinsuke Nakamura. Isn't that cool? And it's just like, they're just building up the most bland things possible at times. And I hope that we don't have an ending to SummerSlam that says, I can't wait for All In. Like, that just makes me go, I cannot wait for All In.
and I'm very worried that's going to be the case. But we
Yeah.
don't know, of course. As negative as I am about this, you heard earlier in the night, positive about some other things. It could be a mixed match type of thing. It could be a lot of negatives. It could be tons of positives. They could do some things in this Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Braun Strowman, Lesnar, Baron Corbin, Triple H, whatever type of thing that they've got going on that make me go, shit, I did not see that coming, and I am so pumped. Or Sunday night when we do the post show, you can hear me go, well, SummerSlam fucking sucked. We had 20 title changes and it's all going in the wrong direction and I hate it and I can't wait to write up 20 articles about how much I'm pissed about WWE and God, I need to work more on Fanboys Anonymous. You know what I mean? Like,
And I tell you that every day.
it could be, this more than any card this year, this is the one that makes me nervous that it's either going to make or break my spirit with WWE kind of. And we'll see.
Can we all agree
don't-
on that, at least?
That it'll make or break my spirit.
Well,
I
all
mean,
of
my
our-
spirit's already partly broken that I don't really watch Raw or SmackDown regularly anymore. So
But this is it, right? Like, if this is almost make or break, if they don't do something here that at least gives you that lesser of two evils sigh of relief, this is just like, okay, fuck it, right?
yeah. If the match doesn't go the way we want to, then we're becoming a New Japan podcast.
Yeah.
then at the very least, because 2 weeks from now is going to be All In, and maybe I'll go all in on All In. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things.
It becomes, hey, look at all the alternatives we have in wrestling. Smark Out Moment, the home of the alternative coverage.
And that is actually something that WWE should be worried about. They can't afford to make it seem like WWE is the brand that doesn't ever listen to the fans, while a show like All In is coming up that does listen to that other market and then makes them look like chumps. And, I don't know. We'll see. But if you guys want to see what's coming up next, there's a little transition, then you should subscribe to the YouTube channel and you should ring the little bell for notifications, and you should follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, and keep checking SmarkOutMoment.com, because what is coming up next is going to be the post show for both NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4 and SummerSlam 2018. And then next week is going to be the mailbag for, what month are we on? I almost said April, for August. So I've already backlogged some questions that have been sent in by guest 5 and so on and so forth. So if you have any questions you want to send in, remember, don't send in any about SummerSlam review type stuff, because we'll talk about that on the SummerSlam review. Send them in when you can, and we will answer them next week. And then the week after that is going to be All In predictions and the post show for
Yeah.
that. So you do have some stuff to look forward to when it comes to that, at the very least. Even if we hate SummerSlam, you'll still get some positive
I mean,
things.
you hate SummerSlam.
Even if I
Yeah,
hate
you
it.
you were a lot more down on this show than we were, Tony.
No, I mean, like, if the post show ends up being like nothing but dour stuff,
Oh, okay.
we still have the mailbag, and we could still talk about, like, hey, I like putting
Yeah, I
butter
like
on my
croutons with
toast.
my soup. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's one of those kind of things. So that's what you should be aware of what's immediately coming up next. And if you want to show your support for some different types of things that we can do in the future, just to kind of change the pace up a little bit, then try to toss some money our way for the Patreon. At the $20 mark, I think is what it was, is when you can request different special features if you'd like to see some little extra content. And you can also do the same kind of thing when it comes to the TeePublic and the Redbubble merchandise shops if you want to kind of pick up a t-shirt or something like that. There are a couple other things I want to talk about, but I'm going to give everybody else a chance here to talk. So, Callum, anything you want to put out there for the plugs?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and obviously check out all the weekly stuff that's going out on Smark at the moment. If you didn't hear in the Takeover predictions, then I did the Women's Wrestling Weekly for this week, substituting for Gabby, who does a great job week in, week out. But it's just a complete recapping the week in women's wrestling from WWE, NXT, Lucha Underground, Impact, all the other promotions. So check that out, and all the other stuff, the triple threats, the cheap pop, cheap heat, all the other great stuff we've got on there.
Rob?
And I, as I do every week, I held up the triple threat. It was more SummerSlam talk. It was myself, Jordan Shaffiott, and Caden Parkhurst, right? It was Caden. And we talked more about Lesnar and Roman and all the things that you heard here. So if you want to hear some other opinions from the people at Smark at the moment, go check out the triple threat about SummerSlam. I will, of course, be here on Saturday for the NXT post show and Sunday for the SummerSlam. I'm on WrestleZone every weekday from 12 to 4 doing the wrestling news. And check out Time Killer Apparel and buy a t-shirt. Oh, and Dude Felice, Twitter and Instagram.
One other thing I want to mention to everybody is Deadshot had put up a thing saying that we should start a Discord channel, and I'm looking into it a little bit. I have created the basics of that kind of a setup, but I need to sort of figure out what the hell's going on because I don't really know too much about Discord. So that might be coming up pretty soon, and if that's the case, I will let everybody know, not only here, but I will also let them know on the website and on the Mega Maniacs in case anybody wants to sign up for that. And in the meantime, let me know what you have in mind for something like that. What would you like to see? Would you like to see certain groups? Would you like to see a focus on certain things in particular? Drop them in the comments below, as well as your thoughts on this SummerSlam card and our opinions that we've put out here for 2.5 hours at this point. Sorry for the long show. It's a long card. We had to get around to a lot of different things. But I want to thank you for listening to all that and to show your support and for showing your support for all the different things that we do here. If you also want to pop up anywhere else, fanboysanonymous.com is my stuff where I put up movie reviews and different things like that. So if there is any kind of news in the Week in Geek that you're interested in my opinions on for castings of Marvel stuff or, whatever the case may be, that's where you'll find that. Show your support there by following Fanboys Anonymous on all the same kind of platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next time around on Saturday night for that Takeover post show.
Positive Takeover
show. For something that's probably going to be lots and lots of, well, that was great. That was great. This is awesome. Nervous about SummerSlam, that kind of a thing. Adios, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.